Where legends breathe again. Eldmyth. Some demons whisper lies, but Gamigin whispers the voices of the dead. A fallen marquis of hell, he commands the spirits of those who died in sin, forcing them to reveal the truths they tried to take to the grave. This is the story of Gamigin, the scribe of the damned. Listen. In the silence between heartbeats and the shadow cast by a dying candle's flame, there is a presence. It is not born of the light, nor does it belong to the absolute dark. It dwells in the in-between spaces, the gloaming of dusk, the mist that rises from forgotten marshes, the echo that lingers after a spoken word. Its name is whispered, not shouted, a sibilant breath on the edge of hearing. Gamigin. To utter it is to invite a shift in the air, a subtle chill that has nothing to do with the weather. This is our subject, a duke of unseen realms, a teacher of profound and perilous arts, a demon whose domain is the murky intersection of knowledge and corruption. For centuries, his legend has been inscribed in the margins of forbidden texts, spoken of in hushed tones by occult scholars and terrified peasants alike. He is not the roaring beast of primal chaos, but something more complex, more insidious. He is the cultivator of souls, the one who finds fertile ground in the fallow fields of human ambition and despair. Our journey begins not with a summoning circle, but with an acknowledgement that some truths are veiled in twilight, and some teachers come bearing gifts that scorch the hand that receives them. The very atmosphere seems to thicken as we speak of him. The light grows diffuse, charged with a static anticipation. Can you feel it? That faint tremor beneath the surface of the visible world. It is the resonance of a name that has power, Gamigin, and now we step into his story. To trace the origin of Gamigin is to sift through layers of ash and allegory. His first coherent emergence into the human worldview comes from the grimoires of the early modern period, most notably the Pseudo-Monarchia Daemonum and the Lesser Key of Solomon. Here, he is catalogued among the 72 spirits of the Goetia, given a rank, a great duke of hell, and a legion of subordinate spirits at his command. But these texts are mere waypoints, not the source. The roots sink deeper, into the fertile, dark soil of pre-Christian myth and primal human anxiety about knowledge itself. Some scholars, like the enigmatic Dr. Alistair Finch, argue the name Gamigin bears linguistic echoes of ancient Chaldean words for marsh or reed bed, painting him as a spirit of forgotten wetlands, places where solid ground gives way to hidden depths, a perfect metaphor for unstable truths. Others see a corrupted link to Gnostic cosmology, a being who, like the serpent in Eden, offers knowledge that simultaneously elevates and exiles. He is not a devil in the simplistic fire and brimstone theology. He is an archon of a different order, a custodian of secrets that bend and warp the soul that learns them. His earliest artistic depictions are not in churches, but in the secret illustrations of occult manuscripts, a figure often shown riding a mangy, powerful horse, a symbol of mastered but base energy, emerging from a misty fen. This is his true origin, not born in a pit of fire, but coalesced from the collective human dread of what lies in the stagnant waters of our own ignorance and the terrifying price of draining them. So what form does this Duke of Soggy Secrets take? Contrary to crude imaginings of monstrosity, Gamigin's appearance, when he deigns to manifest, is one of solemn, unsettling nobility. He is often described as appearing initially as a tall, handsome man of mournful countenance, his features sharp and pale, like marble left in the rain. This pleasing form is the lure, the familiar shape that puts the human mind at ease. But look closer, and the cracks in the masquerade appear. His eyes are the deepest, stillest black, not empty but full, like pools of trapped water reflecting no light, holding entire histories of sorrow and forgotten tongues. Upon his brow rests not a crown of gold, but a circlet of twisted, tarnished metal that resembles petrified roots or corroded iron. From this circlet, two formidable backward-curving horns emerge, not of bone, but of a substance like smoked glass or obsidian, threaded with faint, internal phosphorescence. His attire is the faded grandeur of a drowned king, robes that might once have been rich velvet, now water-stained and heavy with the silt of ages. But his most telling feature is his aura, not a blaze of hellfire, but a perceptible dampness, a chill that raises gooseflesh and mists the air around him. Some accounts speak of a faint smell of ozone, peat, and decaying lilies. When his patience wanes or his power is displayed, the noble facade can slip. His hands, elegant and long-fingered, may darken, the nails extending into cruel black talons capable of hooking into the very substance of a soul. Shadows cling to him unnaturally, and in his full, terrifying glory, he may be seen astride his spectral steed, a creature as magnificent as it is dreadful, with eyes like burning coals and a mane that flows like liquid shadow. The power of Gamigin is not the power of blunt destruction. It is the power of revelation and transformation, a far more dangerous currency. He is hailed in the old texts as a teacher of all liberal sciences. Imagine a desperate alchemist in a midnight laboratory, his great work failing for the 1000th time. In his despair, he whispers the invocations. The air grows damp, and a knowledge not his own floods his mind, the precise angle of distillation, the secret name of the prima materia. He succeeds, but the gold he creates is cold to the touch and whispers blasphemies. This is Gamigin's gift, instantaneous, profound knowledge, but knowledge that comes stained with the medium through which it was delivered. He can reveal the past with terrifying clarity, making a historian witness to long-buried atrocities as if she were there, imprinting the trauma directly upon her psyche. He commands the very tongues of the dead and the drowned, allowing a medium to speak with a drowned sailor, only for the sailor's voice to gradually replace the medium's own. His influence is subtle, an insidious damp that rots the foundations of a mind. He finds his way into human lives through the cracks of grief for lost wisdom, through the arrogance of intellectual pride, and most potently, through the quiet, waterlogged despair of those who feel trapped in circumstances beyond their control. A poet struggling for inspiration might find verses pouring forth, beautiful and haunting, but each poem subtly exalts dissolution, the sweet pull of the deep. He does not conquer with flame, he erodes with understanding, making the soul complicit in its own unraveling. To gain his knowledge is to allow a part of him, a cold, wet seed of insight, to take root within one's consciousness, where it grows, twisting thoughts towards melancholic, isolationist truths. History, or rather the secret history scribbled in the margins of the credible, holds tales of those who sought Gamigin's audience. Consider the case of Eleanor Vance, a brilliant linguist in 1890s Cambridge who became obsessed with a dead Anatolian language known only from fragments on water-damaged clay tablets. For months, she made no progress. Frustration curdled into obsession. Following instructions from a dubious manuscript acquired in Constantinople, she performed a ritual on the banks of the foggy Cam River at the new moon. She reported not a visual apparition, but a sudden, overwhelming knowing, as if a frozen river of grammar and vocabulary had broken open in her mind. She completed her decipherment, her work hailed as a masterpiece, but colleagues noted she could never again bear to be away from the sound of running water. She took a house by the sea, and her later writings, privately published, were bizarre elegies to the comfortable pressure of the deep. She was last seen walking into the waves, her notes left neatly on the shore, the final page containing only a perfectly drawn, looping sigil that modern occultists recognize as Gamigin's seal. Then there is the darker legend from the Black Forest villages, of a community plagued by a mysterious wasting sickness where victims grew pale, cold, and listless, murmuring of beautiful underwater dreams. A traveling friar, skilled in discernment, deduced not a natural pestilence, but a spiritual predation. He tracked the malaise to a nearby peat bog where an ancient, lightning-split oak stood. There he conducted not an exorcism, but a negotiation, using rituals of binding and offering. A cask of the strongest local spirit, poured into the mire as a substitute for the village's vital essence. The sickness lifted, but the friar's journal ends abruptly, its last entry describing the constant sound of dripping water in his cell, a sound only he could hear. The encounter with Father Anselm, the friar from the Black Forest tale, bears deeper examination, for it reveals the complex, almost contractual nature of dealing with such an entity. Anselm did not banish Gamigin. He recognized the demon was not an invader, but a presence that had been invoked, perhaps unknowingly, by the village's collective despair during a famine. The bog was a natural locus for the Duke's energy. Anselm's approach was one of medieval diplomacy, acknowledging the Duke's rank and domain and offering a tithe. The cask of spirits was not just alcohol, it was the distilled essence of the land's grain, its spiritus in the alchemical sense, a symbolic exchange. The ritual was conducted with precise, respectful words in Latin, acknowledging Gamigin's sovereignty over the waters of forgetfulness and the fruits of profound sorrow. As the liquor seeped into the peat, witnesses reported the mist coalescing for a moment into the shape of a noble head, which gave a single, slow nod before dissipating. The bargain held, but Gamigin, as a teacher, had imparted a lesson to Anselm, that the spiritual world operates on transactions of essence and symbolism. The friar's subsequent torment, the phantom dripping, was perhaps the lingering cost, a permanent reminder of the realm he had touched. It changed him from a simple exorcist into a brooding theologian who wrote extensively on the ecology of spirits, arguing that beings like Gamigin are less evil than they are endemic to the shadowed, wet places of both the earth and the human soul, and that they grow powerful only when fed by corresponding human energies. Not all who call upon Gamigin are scholars or men of faith. Some are driven by baser, more visceral needs, and the Duke's teachings adapt to the student. In the maritime folklore of the North Atlantic, there are tales of the Grey Teacher, a phantom that appears to shipwrecked sailors adrift on life rafts. Described as a tall man standing impossibly upon the waves, his clothes sodden but his head clear of the spray, he would offer a bargain. He would teach the survivor exactly how to survive, the precise direction to land, the method to catch fish, the way to distill seawater in exchange for a memory. Not just any memory, but the memory of the survivor's deepest moment of joy on land. Upon acceptance, the knowledge would flood the sailor's mind with icy certainty. Many were saved, but all reported that upon rescue the world seemed duller, colors faded, the taste of food ash-like, the laughter of loved ones distant. They had traded the visceral, emotional memory, the very pigment of their past happiness, for the technical knowledge of survival. They lived, but as partial ghosts, forever feeling the damp chill of that transaction, forever wondering if the joy they sold was the anchor that had truly kept them human. These stories paint Gamigin not as a monster, but as a perfectly neutral, devastatingly logical force. He deals in the economy of the soul, and his price is always something intrinsic, something that defines the buyer's humanity. He reveals the cold mechanics of existence, whether it's the grammar of a dead language or the physics of survival, but in doing so, he quietly removes the warm, illogical, beautiful clutter that makes that existence felt. The summoning rituals for Gamigin, as preserved in the grimoires, are elaborate dances of water, metal, and will. They are not for the desperate or the foolishly curious. The lesser key of Solomon dictates the need for his seal, inscribed on a sheet of purified tin, a metal associated with Jupiter and alchemically with the transformation of base matter. The ritual space is not a circle of protection in the traditional sense, but a liminal zone, a riverbank at midnight, a lakeshore at the dark of the moon, or best, a prepared indoor space with a large, shallow basin of fresh, moving water achieved through subtle pumps in hidden rooms. The magician must wear vestments of gray and deep blue, and the incense is not sulphurous, but a rare blend of willow bark, lotus, and a mineral called lapis stellaris, star stone, that smells of cold ozone and deep earth. The conjurations are spoken in a calm, respectful tone, not commands, but invitations and acknowledgments of the Duke's rank and domains. The goal is not to enslave the demon, a fatal arrogance, but to establish a temporary, formal audience. Success is rarely marked by thunder and brimstone. More often, the water in the basin grows utterly still, then reflects not the ceiling but a starless sky or a foreign, misty landscape. The voice of Gamigin may issue from the water itself, a sound like stones shifting in a deep creek, or he may manifest as a wraith-like figure forming from the rising mist above the basin. The interaction is cerebral, a negotiation. The magician states his desire for knowledge, and the duke states his price. The wise magician listens carefully, for the price is often cryptic. The memory of your first victory, the sound of your laughter, the name you called your mother in your heart. To agree is to be instantly imprinted with the promised knowledge, and to carry from that moment an emptiness where that piece of oneself once resided. One of the most chilling modern accounts comes from the archives of the now-defunct Thaumaturgic Research Society, recorded in 1973. A group of parapsychologists, armed with tape recorders and EMF meters, attempted a controlled evocation in a specially prepared laboratory with a saltwater pool. They used a synthesized version of the ancient invocations. The equipment spiked, and a voice, layered and wet, emanated from the pool's speakers, though the water itself remained placid. It answered their technical questions about resonant frequencies and spiritual energy with breathtaking, revolutionary clarity, concepts that would later find echoes in cutting-edge quantum physics papers. But then, the lead researcher, Dr. Armitage, asked an impulsive, personal question. What becomes of us after? The voice responded not with a lecture, but with an experience. Every person in the room was simultaneously subjected to a vision of their own consciousness dissolving, not into nothingness, but into a cold, vast, interconnected network of silent, slow thought, like a neural net submerged in a cosmic ocean. It was peace, but a peace so absolute it was indistinguishable from oblivion. The experience lasted only seconds in real time, but felt like eons. The team disbanded shortly after. Dr. Armitage published no further papers, retreating to a quiet life by a lake, and was often quoted as saying, "The answer was too complete. It left no room for the question, and a life without questions is a stillborn thing." This encounter underscores Gamigin's ultimate lesson, that absolute knowledge can be a form of annihilation. He doesn't lie. He tells truths so vast and cold they freeze the living, questioning spark of the human spirit. He is the teacher who, by showing you the entire, desolate beauty of the cosmos, makes you feel insignificant not through cruelty, but through devastating fact. The symbolism of Gamigin is a rich tapestry woven from water, memory, and melancholy. Psychologically, he represents the shadow side of the intellect, the drive to know everything, even if that knowledge destroys what makes life worth living. He is the embodiment of the Faustian bargain applied not to power, but to understanding. In a world increasingly obsessed with data, with stripping away mystery through science and analysis, Gamigin's myth becomes painfully relevant. He is the patron demon of the information age's dark underbelly, the deep, lonely despair that can follow when every mystery is solved, when every experience is quantified, and the warm, fuzzy ambiguity of being human is replaced by cold, hard data. Culturally, his influence is subtle. He is not a pop culture icon like Baphomet or Pazuzu. Instead, he seeps into the substrata, in the melancholy, wise, but ultimately doomed mentors in fantasy literature who know too much, in the cinematic trope of the ancient entity that offers forbidden knowledge at a terrible price, in video games where lore and uncovering dark truths is a mechanic that often corrupts the player character. His image, the noble, sorrowful figure in water-stained robes, echoes in modern Gothic and dark fantasy art, a symbol of lost kingdoms and drowned wisdom. He represents a timeless human tension, the burning desire to see behind the curtain of reality, and the soul-shattering cost of what we might find there. In the end, what are we to make of Duke Gamigin? He is not a villain in a simplistic sense. He is a function of the universe, a reflection of a profound and unsettling law, that all knowledge has a provenance and all teachers impart something of themselves. He is the marshlight that leads the curious off the solid path, not to their immediate death, but to a country where the air is too thin for joy, where every truth is waterlogged. His enduring presence in the occult imagination speaks to a deep, abiding human fear, not of ignorance, but of the kind of enlightenment that leaves you alone in a vast, silent, comprehensible universe. As we pull back from this exploration, let the chill in the air linger for a moment. Listen to the silence of your own space. Is it truly silent? Or is there, beneath the hum of appliances or the distant sound of life, a subtler sound, the almost imperceptible drip of condensation, the sigh of settling moisture, the quiet invitation to know more than is good for you? Gamigin does not hunt. He waits. He is in the stagnant puddle that reflects the sky a little too clearly, in the forgotten book that falls open to a precisely relevant page, in the moment of despair that seeks not comfort but cold, hard explanation. He is the duke of the places where things are not forgotten, but remembered with such perfect, awful clarity that they cease to be memories and become prisons. So tread carefully on damp ground, and think twice before you wish to truly understand the depths. For the teacher is always waiting, and his lessons are eternal. Another legend fades, but the next awaits. Like this video, subscribe and continue the journey through myths.